All right, family, welcome back to Commitments Radio. You're listening to Commitments Radio on WDRB Media. We're talking to our special guest, Bishop Robert H. Kelly III, about the lack of respect and leadership, for leadership in leadership. And so we've been having this conversation. But Bishop, one of the things that I just really want to lean into, and it's really two things. It's number one, um, whose responsibility is it that we are where we are? And then number two, what are the expectations? So I'm just going to kind of lay that out there, and I'm going to ask you to just talk about that from based on where you are.
Well, we've talked, I think, the last session about um, the fact that the American people are majorly responsible for where we are in our leadership cycles,
Mm-hmm.
because it is the American people who determine who they want to be the president, the congressman, the senator.
Mm-hmm.
It is the American people who make that decision, and it's almost as serious as saying, "Who do you want to handle your money?
Mm-hmm.
Um, who do you want to teach your children?" Um, and now we're talking about, who do you want to run your community or your nation?
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's a misconception in many Americans about what any office is about, particularly the president of the United States. The first thing is, I want to be clear: the office itself is not about being a CEO or chairman of an organization or authoritarian or dictator. The office itself is primarily focused in the thing that perhaps you don't really see, but it has to be explained. It's a position of civil servitude. It's a civil service position.
Mm-hmm.
It's civil because it's about civil society, but the key word in it is serving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, serving what people want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just one set of the population, which makes it challenges, but everyone. Not to mention the fact that you have the judicial sector there as well. But the fact of the matter is, in the three branches of government, you're also in a partnership in your opportunity to serve as a civil servant to this United States of America and really to the rest of the world. And so acknowledging that in your actions is critically important. And people ought to be looking for people that demonstrate that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're a good politician, because that doesn't mean anything. The question is, are they a good servant
Mm-hmm.
to the society, which affects your life personally, and on other levels that affects your neighbor's life?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what has been your experience in affecting other people's lives and creating impact in other people's lives, no matter how small it would be?
And Bishop, I would certainly agree with you in that, in the importance of looking for someone who's a civil servant. So yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
And I think the thing is we seem to fall into a rut of electing too many people who have been politicians as opposed to being civil servants.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're electing another politician or politician doesn't necessarily mean you're electing a good civil servant. I happen to believe that sometimes when you get into the rut, 20 years of being a politician to your constituents, I think there's always an implication, perhaps, that you've lost some of the edge to be a civil servant
Mm-hmm.
because you understand the game much better now.
Mm-hmm.
you know. I think having a required term for all politicians is good, because I think they're always great leaders. It's just that they never have a chance because someone has monopolized by the position by getting several sponsors and donors who get their wishes met. And because they get their wishes met, they want to keep you doing what you've been doing as a politician because they want to continue to get their issues met and their policies across the table. So I think we have moved into a rut. I think Trump calls it the swamp, and I guess to a certain degree, that's what he means. But elect a guy who's going to clean out the swamp and just replace it with a worse swamp is not your solution.
Right. Right.
I think also how we look at one another as citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King once called this society we have, and he also said we were a world house.
Mm-hmm.
That anything we do in the United States affects other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I guess the example of Ukraine is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are part of the house, no matter how distant they are, because we're afraid that if we get a roach in the kitchen, we know eventually you're gonna get one in the living room. You know, so the element of protecting Ukraine and their interests and their democracy is something that we ought to do, and it does not necessarily serve only Ukraine. It sets out a mission globally that we must be at peace as humanity.
Mm-hmm.
The White House is a humanitarian position. It's not just one that satisfies the dictates of the White House. And I think you've seen that now. And I think you've seen that to a large degree. There have not been really any A's, A minuses or B pluses on the actions that have been taken with respect to a president that has to have a humanitarian idea or a humanitarian approach. So I think we've been looking for the right thing in the wrong places, looking for it in the right people. And for the most part, America needs to understand when it has been sold and when it's selling out. And I think there's a major difference, because selling out means I can't accomplish what I want to accomplish in who I elect. But being sold is meaning I'm ignorant to what I'm supposed to be looking at as an American. Today, every vote counts, whether you're abroad or you're local, no matter what race, nationality, creed, or culture you are, every vote matters. We are sisters and brothers. And oftentimes I walk through my local supermarket and I see people that might smile at me, and I'll just, hello, sister, hello, brother, no matter what age or complexion or, culture they come from. We must learn how to live together. Now we must have a leader that guides us down that road, because when we learn to live with others, when we have a leader that helps us live with others, then we are able to live with everybody.
All right, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Does America have a leadership deficit? You're listening to Commitments Radio on WDRB Media. We'll be right back after this break.